We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. The COVID-19 pandemic has irrevocably shaped how connections are formed in congregations across the United States and the world. The Church of the Larger Fellowship is committed to being a resource within Unitarian Universalism and beyond. From worship to covenant groups, from classes to pastoral care, and from our monthly magazine Quest. We are the Church of the Larger Fellowship, a Unitarian Universalist congregation with no geographical boundaries. We believe in cultivating curiosity and transformation that is rooted in profound love. We are so excited to bring you an all-new episode of The VUU. The VUU is a weekly Unitarian Universalist.
Welcome, friends. Welcome to another episode of The VUU, Voices of Unitarian Universalism, brought to you by the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We are so glad that you are here joining us today for a host special. If you haven't been with us before for host specials, you are in for a treat. But first, our hosts will introduce themselves. I'm Christina Rivera, she, her pronouns. I am 1/3 of the lead ministry team here at the Church of the Larger Fellowship. Today, I'm coming to you from Central Virginia, where the weather is cold and just really overcast and gray. And what the hell? Why am I here? Aisha, how you doing?
I'm Aisha Hauser. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm coming to you from the land of the Coast Salish people, also known as Seattle. It has not stopped raining, it feels like, for 92 days, probably only been about a week. And, you know, we will talk about this show, but it's Gaza is never far from my mind, and what's going on in the West Bank and an ongoing genocide that so it is weighing very, very heavy on my heart. Michael, how are you? Is Michael frozen or am I frozen?
No, I think Michael might be frozen. It says Michael is having connection problems. So we'll continue on. My guess is that based on Michael's screenshot wearing layers, that it is a little bit chilly there in Peekskill, New York. And we will see when Michael is able to join back with us.
Well, one of the things that I will say is one of the weekly email, if you do not get it and you are watching this or listening to this, please sign up at clfuu.org. I believe it's where you sign up. I wrote about joy as resistance, finding ways to find joy. I follow a lot of Black activists, and I meant to look up who originally said joy is an act of resistance. It might have been Audre Lorde. And recently, when the Palestinians were released from Israeli prisons, the higher ups in the Israeli occupation forces banned celebrations or any display of joy and celebration. This was public. You can Google it. And it hurt my heart. I mean, already this has been heinous in every way. And then to know that even celebrating, and a lot of these folks in prison were children, were minors, were children who maybe were throwing rocks and doing what they can to defend their people and themselves. So this is what I want to invite people into is we have a lot of joyful activities that we want you to join us online with. And one of them, Saturday, nailed it. You want to tell us a little bit about that, Chris?
So this is the third annual CLF Nailed It CLF edition. CLF Connects events are events that the CLF has been doing for many years, basically bringing together people at this time of year that can be, it can be a challenging time of year without a genocide going on to begin with, and certainly now even more so. So the events are there for people to come together and just have fun or have reflective time, or just be in a space where they can experience joy before the challenges of the season may bring. So one of the events that we have is Nailed It. So if you're not familiar with Nailed It, it's a show on Netflix in which professional cake decorators do their thing, and then semi-pro / amateur people do their thing trying to emulate it, and it's a lot of fun. So the first year, Julica Herman de la Fuente, who is a CLF member and on our board, who is an amazing cake decorator, holy crap, challenged me to replicate one of her cakes, and it was hysterical. I am in no way, shape, or form a baker, a decorator, any of those kinds of things. So that was the first year. Last year, we had a youth, Robin, join us as a contestant, and Robin did an amazing job and won. And Robin returns this year as a guest judge, along with Julica. But this year, Julica challenged the co-leads to cupcake decorating. So she has sent Aisha, Michael, and myself a package that has, I haven't opened the package yet. I probably should, since we're doing this the day after tomorrow, with some ingredients, and we're bringing some ingredients, and she is live going to teach us how to decorate some cupcakes, which I just don't even know how to tell you what these are going to look like, at least mine.
I've literally never decorated a cupcake in my entire life. I mean, maybe put frosting on it, but like, right. That's the extent of any of that. So
yeah, it cracks me up because Julica said, I'm going to give you the ingredients to make the frosting, and then I'm going to do a little video to show you all how to make the frosting. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I can follow a video. So she sent us the video, and she's like, you know what? It's just so easy. You don't even really need a video. I'm just going to talk you through it. And she starts talking us through it. And I'm like, oh, dear Lord. I just don't even know. Have you tried to make the frosting yet?
Well, no, because I was actually going to ask. I think we have to make it that day so it's soft. Because if you make it now, it's butter. It's a butter frosting. You put it in the fridge, it's going to be too hard, isn't it? I'm making this up. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Saturday would be when I'm going to make it right before, but I should ask, actually. That's a good follow-up. I have no clue. I was just thinking in my head, if I make it now, right? Because it's butter and it needs to be softened and you need to mix it.
Oh, that's true. You couldn't put it, you couldn't put it in the fridge. Well,
I think it'll be too hard.
What cracked me up is so you're just going to whip it, just get your, I don't even know what she said, your mixer. And I'm like, okay, what's a mixer?
I mean, I'm like, I'll ask my neighbors for their hand mixers. I don't own one either. Other things, but
So friends, join us. It will be a lot of fun, and it'll be 3:00 Eastern on this Saturday. There are lots of other CLF Connects events. CLFUU.org /CLF Connects is how you find all of the events. Aisha and Michael do a fabulous Iron Chef event where I don't think we've picked the mystery ingredient yet. But we picked a mystery ingredient for them. And what else is there?
If you have ideas for a mystery ingredient, please feel free to put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Got a couple
Yeah.
of ideas, but yeah, we don't
Oh.
have, that's Wednesday, I think.
Yeah, but you know what? Tonight there is the so if you
Nice.
all want to, at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight is the holiday game night, which is going to be super fun. I was bummed to miss the carols earlier this week, but yeah, that's holiday game night, and then Saturday, and then next week we've got live painting with Rose, which is super fun. And if I've done the live painting with Rose, it's not like I have the least amount of painting talent ever, so join in. It's nothing like that. And yeah, and then Iron Chef on Wednesday. So
Super
yes,
fun.
joy.
Yeah, we need to, I will say, going back to Palestine, there's one of the Christian churches in Bethlehem, I believe it's in Bethlehem or Jerusalem. The nativity is the baby Jesus in rubble, surrounded by rubble, and it is profound. And they said, this is what's happening, and this is where Jesus is right now. And so, yeah, and they're not. I think Christmas services have been canceled in Bethlehem this year.
I was just going to say, I know that Christmas has been canceled in quite a few places in solidarity with the Palestinian people. And, if I could get to my thread, I could tell you where that is. But, the quote unquote ceasefire was just barely a ceasefire. Truly call it that. But there is a call for another ceasefire so that people can try and get reunited with their families, get medical care, all of that type of thing. So we have in the chat, Lori Stone is helping us out with Behind the Chalice right now. So in the chat, and if you're just listening, if you go to jewishvoicesforpeace.org, you can find the information on how to contact your representatives to demand a ceasefire now. It's really easy. They give you a script. They give you the phone number of your representative to call. You can just, read off of the script, leave a message. It's always great if you get to talk to someone. Certainly, if you get the message, the voicemail, please leave a message. It really does. I know it seems like it doesn't help. It really does, because their aides, they have unpaid aides there who all they do is track what the topic of the messages are that come into your representative's office. So while your representative won't hear probably your individual message, that tally sheet that the aides take is super important. So it's really critical that you and your friends call and leave those messages, because that tells the representative what to pay attention to.
Well, and we also need to more forcefully let the people in power know that the vast majority of people with empathy want slaughter to end. And there's I'm on social media a lot, as are you, and one of the things that I've been that's happened, especially think maybe the week after October 7th, there was a lot of like, well, Hamas started this, right? Once it became clear what was happening, then it's really the idea of the more and more people started researching what's happening, the occupation, why it's happening, and someone wrote, Palestine is radicalizing the world. And people are now looking at the Congo, what has happened in Yemen over the last few decades, Sudan, and all what is happening in places where Black and brown people are on land that is rich in resources. And this is a continuation of violent extractive capitalism. That will be the death of humanity. I mean, talk about linked oppressions, and I'm not okay. So to your point, being as vocal and as consistent as possible, because what the powers that be are hoping is we get tired, is that we
Exactly.
stop making calls, is we stop posting on social media. Because I'll tell you why, for the last year, Congress has been trying to get rid of TikTok. It's because that is how people are talking to each other. Journalists who still have access to satellite phones are posting on TikTok and showing the world what the slaughter that is happening unchecked. And it is, we need to keep putting pressure on the powers that be, because enough is enough. More than that, I grew up knowing what was going on in Palestine, and I never ever thought in my lifetime that the world would be marching and holding Palestinian flags and wearing keffiyehs for the people of Palestine. I have uncles who fought in the Arab-Israeli War in 1967. And I remember I've been to Sinai. My uncle took me to one of the command bases there when I was like 10. But Americans had no clue. None until now, because the collective unconscious. I think so. I read. I don't know if somebody was saying there's a change in the air. Like, I believe in the collective unconscious, and I think there is a change. There's more of an awakening, and we need to do more, right? And I feel like I vacillate between vast helplessness, and a
Right.
part of me is hopeful that so many people are aware of how awful oppression is for millions and millions of people. So yes, call your representatives. Please don't stop. We can't get tired. We can't. Entire lineages are being wiped off the earth. Entire lineages have been in Gaza. And the West Bank, there's a lot of violence too, with the illegal settlements happening too.
Yeah, absolutely. To give an update on something I think we talked about last week or the week before, about the college students, the Palestinian college students, U.S. college students who were targeted and shot in Vermont last week. 2 of them are ready to be released. One has said he doesn't necessarily want to be released from the hospital because he's scared about being back out in public. Unfortunately, the student that goes to the same school as my sons, and who one of my sons knows, has sustained injuries that look like they will affect him probably lifelong. So currently he's paralyzed, and is going to have a long road to a new normal. And that's just like the smallest grain in all of this that is happening, right? Like, I think the thing about that really drove home to me was his parents. Because as parents, our most primal need is for our children to be safe, right? And our children to be okay, and to be fed, and to be safe. And his father told him to stay in the States for Thanksgiving break, because it was too dangerous to come home. And as a parent, to have to live with that knowledge that there was no safe place, for your child, is just I just feel at the visceral level. And I say that because we all, those are our children, right? Like, that is one of our children. That's one of my children. That's one of your children. That's all of those children and families that are getting bombed out of existence are our children. And it is our responsibility to do everything that we can to stop it.
Yeah, I read an interview with his mom who said we thought he'd be safer in Vermont than Ramallah.
Yep.
And I can't imagine. My heart just breaks open because I can't imagine being the parent who makes that decision. Like,
right?
all logic on their side.
Yeah.
Vermont of all
So here's,
fucking
I'm
places.
just going to read a couple of words from Hisham. Hisham Awatani is the student from Brown. And this is what he said. He said, it's important to recognize that this is part of a larger story. This hideous crime did not happen in a vacuum. As much as I appreciate and love every single one of you today, I am but one casualty in this much wider conflict. Had I been shot in the West Bank where I grew up, the medical services that saved my life here would likely have been withheld by the Israeli army. This soldier who shot me would have gone home and never been convicted. I understand that the pain is so much more real and immediate because of many of who know me, but any attack like this is horrific, be it here or be in Palestine. This is why when we say your wishes and light your candles today, your mind should not be focused on me as an individual, but rather as a proud member of a people that are being oppressed. I mean, just, it gets right to the heart of it, of, even recognize, naming the difference of what happened is just location.
I woke up this morning thinking bloodlust for revenge and annihilation is so part of the modern American story, and really the Israeli story. Look, not they're the blood. Maybe it's a human story that has been amplified by the horrors of the modern imperialism that's been going on for a few hundred years in this way. And this bloodlust and this revenge, this need for revenge Israel will never be safe. This is not the road to safety. And now the world is complete. So we're faith leaders. We are now, the three of us, we lead worship. I'm leading worship this Sunday. What do we do? Like, that's clearly obviously an existential question, but it's, I think about what is there to say? How do we bring people back to their humanity? Like, when this all started, I was at a community college, and the president said to me, "How do we talk about this?" I said, literally, I started tearing up. I said, humanize the Palestinians, because there is part of this bloodlust and annihilation is the idea that they're not human, that we're all not human. And so I don't know. James Baldwin talked about this. And so white people are connected to themselves. They're going to be okay with this atrocity. I don't have much else to say. It's beyond.
Well, it's beyond understanding, because it shouldn't be, we shouldn't understand it, right? It's not part of, So I'm going to use religious language in which I believe. It's not part of God's plan for us to try and annihilate one another, right? It's not part of the universe's call to us to try and annihilate one another. That is so far from the beauty of our existence, and our existence is so short on this planet. And we have everything that we need right now to have heaven on this earth. We have all the resources, and it's unfathomable because we're not supposed to be doing it. We're not supposed to understand it. It's not supposed to be part of our lives. And yet it is. And trying to understand where that, if you are a Star Wars fan, and Yoda says that, the fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. And trying to understand where that fear starts so that we can head off the suffering is I think what we can do, part of what we can do.
Well, and part of that fear is rooted in centuries of dehumanization. I mean, it's like, I believe the call right now is very clear, right? The call right now is very clear that there needs to be a ceasefire, that the people of Gaza need to not be bombed anymore, right? I just want to be really clear about that. And I'm trying really hard not to like both sides this, because that call is so clear. And how do you help a population who are reacting from the worst things that have ever been done to them over centuries? Right? I mean, how can you say this is what you're doing to the Palestinian people now are the worst things that have ever been done to you for centuries? And it's like, it's beyond horrible, right? It's how do we teach? I don't know. How does a better way get forged?
Gabor, is it Gabor Mater? I always screw up his last name. He is a Jewish man who has written books about trauma. And he's been very vocal since all of this has started. And he talks about the trauma that Jewish people live with collectively, whether or not they were directly connected to the Holocaust. The Holocaust is a thing that happened that the Jewish people collectively hold in trauma, completely understandably. And there has not been a collective healing that has instead of collective healing, the United States and the UK, in their imperialist bullshit colonial, we need to put white people where, strategic. This was not really, I mean, we need to be clear, this was not a benevolent thing for the Jewish people. This was, still part of settler colonialism among the British Empire and the United States. And they gave a group of people land I'm oversimplifying this grossly, but it was a group of highly traumatized people, understandably, and there was never a place for healing. So it's almost like 75 years of pain and reactionary trauma that's alive, right? And the idea that this is the only place you can remain safe, this being Israel, And so and then I've heard people say, like, what is Palestine? Where is Palestine? And I can't even wrap my mind around that. It's like saying, where is Egypt? What are Egyptians? It's like that. How are we even asking that question? And so there's, I think, an existential invitation for all of us to heal, but we can't get to healing when people are in fear and saying we have to annihilate. I mean, that's the thing. We're past right now. I can't even hear about October 7th because we're past any, and New York Times now reported that Israel knew a year ago. I mean, it was never even in question that they didn't know. That's really, that's absurd. And so this is now about annihilation. It's not even, I mean, it's gone beyond revenge. It is now trying to wipe an entire group of people off the map. To what end? Because Israel will never see peace. It's not going to happen. So how do we get to peace? Stop fucking the idea that saying stop bombing and stop slaughtering children is controversial is something we need to look at ourselves and say, why is this controversial? And you still have there have been dozens and dozens of disturbing images that I know that the world needs to bear witness to. But one of the most disturbing wasn't of blood and gore, which there have been plenty of that. It was two young Israeli soldiers. One proposed to his girlfriend over the rubble of a school in Gaza. People around them clapped, and it's like, what happened to your humanity that you are over rubble, that you've destroyed entire cities, and you're wanting to destroy all of Gaza, and like, what's going on? What is like, truly, what is happening? That was, and people were cheering, and I'm like, wow, there is such a disconnection from their own humanity, that they are holding guns and rifles and have been charged with destroying other humans, and at the same time they are proposing marriage to each other. It was one of the more, that I saw that yesterday. It was one of the more disturbing things that has made me kind of sick.
Well, and at this point, Benjamin Netanyahu has openly invoked biblical verses in which the God of the Israelites tells them to go and wipe entire populations of other people off the map. Right? He has openly invoked those and called the Palestinians by that name. Right? So there's not like a debate anymore as to what his goal is here. And the question is there a check on that? Who checks his genocidal powers? Who can his people do it? Because I don't think he's acting on behalf of the majority of his nation by any stretch of the imagination. So if his people can't do it, then the only people who can are the United States government. Right? So we in the United States are called to a certain use your power for good in the world moment.
Literally.
Well, and without our backing on the UN Security Council.
The Doctors Without Borders convoy was bombed yesterday. It I want to bring up Yemen. Yemen relies, I think, 80% of their food from humanitarian aid from the UN, which has now been withheld because Yemen is the only country trying to prevent Israeli warships from, and US warships, I think, have been in the Red Sea, have been attacked by Yemen. So I want, and so there is a call to action on social media to call the UN and let them know they're against this, that they need to support the people of Yemen. And there, I do want to go back to Michael's point. It is really important to point out that Netanyahu is an extremely unpopular president in Israel. That there have been mass demonstrations against him for a long, long time. And so he's not popular there either. Now, to be fair, there are people, not fair, I'll take that word back. To be clear, there are people in Israel who support this genocide because it is bizarre to call it a war because Palestine does not have an army. So let's be clear with our language. It is not a war. It is a slaughter and a genocide. And we need to tap into our humanity and talk about people's humanity and remember that we are all human. And this is not, in the year 2023, 70, what is it, 80 years after the Holocaust, we to see this happening, to be witness to this is heartbreaking, to say the very, very least. It's unsettling. I feel unsettled, Michael. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense to me in that this is a time that I think if we felt settled, there'd be something wrong with us. You know, if we
Yeah.
felt settled, like, oh yeah, la la la, life goes on, like that would be pointing to a hole in our own humanity, right? So to feel unsettled, maybe means your humanity is still intact, which is rough to say. And you know, tonight, Jewish people around the world will be celebrating the first night of Hanukkah, a minor holiday, um, but a holiday nonetheless, the Festival of Lights, and it's a complicated holiday. And people who want to spin it this way will spin it as the festival that celebrates a Jewish military victory over a force that tried to annihilate them. Because it was the Greek Empire was trying to annihilate the Jewish people. But the word Hanukkah, and I'll say this again on Sunday worship for all of you who come to CLF worship, it means rededication. And the miracle happened that is celebrated by our Jewish siblings at this time of year, that will be celebrated starting tonight by our Jewish siblings, is the miracle of re-sanctifying a holy space was defiled by violence and hatred. And a miracle that allowed the priests to re-sanctify that space. And so Jewish Voice for Peace says, this year we rededicate ourselves to the deepest values of our tradition in the context of rampant racism and Islamophobia. And so, taking a cue from a Jewish organization, I think it's an appropriate point at which we need to ask ourselves, what are the highest values that we need to rededicate ourselves to? We have to, how do we respond as people of faith? The highest value in Judaism, from years of rabbinic conversations, is the value of saving a human life. Pikuach nefesh. So how do we rededicate humanity to that value? That's saving, like, because it asks us not to dehumanize people. It asks, how do we reorient ourselves to saving lives is more important than anything else? I don't have an easy answer to that. Wish I did. But I wanted to bring in that perspective too. Yeah. How do we make everyone reorient? I mean, we say it and we insist on it.
I want to also remind everyone, it's anti-Arab sentiment along with Islamophobia, because there are a lot of Palestinian Christians who are also being slaughtered. So it is both. Palestinian Christians have been asking folks on social media to remember that there are a significant number of Palestinian Christians who are part of this being slaughtered, along with so it's Islamophobia. And I think one of the things that's been really interesting to be witness to is how many Jewish people are deconstructing their own conditioning into political Zionism, and watching that, and watching, white, especially European descendant Jews, Ashkenazi Jews, talk to each other and say what we've been taught was rooted in racism, was rooted in dehumanizing a whole nother group of people. And that has been, I almost dare not use the word hope, but it feels like there's, when I look for the helpers, I think it was Jimmy Carter or Jimmy Carter's mother. He quotes his mother, look for the helpers. And I feel like when I come
Fred
across and
Rogers.
witness, the what?
That was Fred Rogers.
Fred. Oh, Fred.
So might as well be Carter. Come on. Cut from the same cloth. Fred Rogers and Jimmy Carter.
A benevolent white man. So, look, and I feel like when I come across Jewish people who have deconstructed what they've been taught that was rooted in anti-Arab racism, a little something like, I'm like, okay, there's a helper. There's a helper, because they've been attacked. There have been Jewish people who are told they are not Jewish. They are, betraying their people. They've been really, it has not been easy for them to talk to other Jewish people.
I've had Jewish people tell me that Jewish Voice for Peace is an anti-Semitic hate group.
The fuck? Yeah, that's a sentiment that's out there, that Jewish Voices for Peace, who don't want to slaughter
anyone,
Palestinians, are anti-Semitic. Where do we go from here? Like, how do we even say to folks, remember your humanity? Yeah. 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 I think that's why the work of healing trauma, both individually and collectively, is so crucial, because it is almost impossible to have a fact-based conversation with someone who's been activated for generations, right? So saying, yes, October 7th is terrible, the attack at the music festival, yes. And it is wrong to commit a genocide. Both things are true. Right. Oh, without a doubt. And I think, I've absolutely been trying so hard to be in a place of understanding of white Jewish siblings in spirit, especially those who are UU, um, who are in a place of, but if Israel doesn't defend itself, we will be annihilated. It's an existential fear, that I can intellectually understand. I was I'm going to say the word indoctrinated, conditioned into a certain way of thinking as I was growing up Muslim and thinking, mind you, my mother was very clear. Everyone who's not Muslim is going to hell. And I grew up to not believe in hell because I did a lot of work to deconstruct that. Um, so it's not, I agree that the I've said to myself, I don't know where the on-ramp is for this conversation for folks who are activated. It is important for me to remember that folks aren't trying to say I'm going to give my white Jewish siblings in spirit who are UU, especially UU faith leaders, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they would not support genocide if they were not activated. I'm going to trust that because I have to, because otherwise I don't know how but because I don't want to dehumanize them. And I want to, affirm the fear is something that has been instilled to hold up something that is continuing to harm and slaughter and commit a genocide on another group of people. And if we can tap into the humanity of those who are being slaughtered and connected to our own, maybe that's where we can start having a common humanity that we need to be against this. We must. This will impact, this is now impacting the world. It's going to continue to impact the world. And it is not going to result in the safety that's the lie. The lie is committing a genocide on Palestinians will keep Israel safe. It is a lie. It is. It is a lie. Um, it is the incarceration lie. It's connected. Ooh, We take away our own humanity. We take away our own humanity. When we think it's okay to put 25% of our population in prison in cages, and then when we support a genocide, we dehumanize people and we take away our own humanity. Yeah. Maybe we can end in prayer, because I got nothing left right now.
Sure. Source of all, spirit of life and love, breath that connects each of us to one another. Help us feel the connections that we have with all of humanity. Help us steel ourselves with the resolve that it takes to keep our humanity intact by insisting on the humanity of others, by insisting that violence must cease, by insisting that hatred must cease, and by insisting that governments who are colluding to perpetrate violence must stop that work, must stop it, especially if it is being done in our name. May we have the resolve to understand ourselves as connected to each and every one of the children who are being targeted by bombs and guns, to each and every one of the parents who are mourning the lives of their babies. May we always feel that connection, and may it unsettle us so that we know we have to act. In your many holy names we pray. Amen.